If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving in life, then you want to stick around for this episode where we talk about the upshot and why it is so crucial when you start planning what you want your life to look like. What up, what up? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Curse Breaker podcast. So excited to have you guys here today. We're going to talk all about Upshot and why it's important to establish that vision, the dreams, the goals, the aspirations that you have for your life so you can start stepping into your greatness. Before we dive into all of that information, I want to take the time to thank my team over at the Black Gamut Entertainment because I just love what they do and the principles that they stand on. They're vowing to change the podcasting industry forever because instead of talking the talk, they also walk the walk. And each of the podcast shows have a purpose behind it. The goal behind my show, the Curse Breaker podcast, is to start leadership and entrepreneurship programs inside of low-income schools so that kids who are like me can have the opportunity to learn about those skill sets way early on than just 22 years old when I first learned it for myself. So I'm excited to be a part of that. And if you want to help make a difference and change the world, come join the Black Gamut family because together we can make a difference. Now, with all that being said, let's dive right into the information that I want to share with you guys today. And we're going to basically plug into chapter 1 of my book, Unlock Yourself, How to Earn the Success You Were Born to Create. And I feel as though it's obviously you have the words that's on the page, but it's different when you hear the author speak about it himself, right? And I want to give you guys just some fire thought process that you can have. Maybe you're a person that necessarily doesn't want to read everything. I don't even have an Audible version. So just picking up this podcast alone is going to help give you some direction, some guidance on where you need to go with this show and what you want to actually accomplish, okay? But before we get into all that, I actually want to do this, which I have never done before, but I want to read a section out of the introduction of the book so that you guys can get an idea of the fire that's going to be coming out of here, as well as then starting to get into, like I said, chapter 1 and talking about what that is, okay? So listen up to this. Despite what you may have heard, you were born to create success. It won't just fall in your lap. It won't randomly hit you in the head while you're walking down the street. It won't be easy. Success requires that you pay a price. Along the way, you will fail a lot. You'll fall on your face more times than you like, and you will inevitably reach a point where you feel like quitting. Don't. No matter the price you have to pay, the reward is always worth it. I'm counting on you. Your family is counting on you. And most importantly, your future self is counting on you. So this one's for the curse breakers, the overcomers, the ones who were told they can't, the ones who are ready to prove them all wrong. This one is for anyone who makes the decision to break the cycle. Someone who knows their family's past but won't allow it to dictate their future. It's for those who know they are destined for more but don't quite know how to get there. For those who want to chase greatness, no matter what the cost, I salute you. This book is the first step in living the life you were born to create. I look forward to seeing who you become throughout the process. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I get fired up every single time I read that small excerpt from the book because it is the passion, man. It's the passion that's behind it. It's what I want you guys to realize about yourself is that the seeds are there. The seeds are already inside of you. You have greatness already there. You just have to choose to water that seed, to nurture that seed, to grow that seed. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be fun all the time. However, it's always worth it. When a seed goes into the ground, say it's an acorn. We're trying to build the biggest acorn tree that's out there, okay? That seed goes into the ground, and the first thing it sees is darkness. Nothing around it, nothing that's there. And then a little bit by little bit, that seed has to fight to start to struggle through and start to make roots. And even then, it still hasn't broken the surface yet. It's just underneath, doing everything that it needs to do to even stretch out just a little bit more. And it seems like they don't know exactly where it's going because it's still in darkness. It still has no idea where the light is. It's just light coming down on it from above the surface. And then slowly but surely, eventually, that seed punches through the surface. But you need to have that big network, that expansion, the foundation of the root system. before you can actually poke yourself through the surface and start growing and producing fruit. Come on now. Like that's powerful, guys. Like you guys need to realize that is you. You are the seed that goes into the ground, but you have to fight your way through the surface. Okay. So we're going to talk about the very first step in the process of the formula for unlocking you. And that very first step is an upshot. Your upshot is your goal. The question I always ask is, what's the best that can happen? Most of the time when we think about what ifs, we think about all the negative things. We think about, oh man, what if I start this business and it fails? What if I ask this girl out and she denies me? What if I try hard on this test and I still don't do good? What if I study and I still fail? Well, stop thinking about the what ifs and how it turns negative. Start thinking about the best things that can happen. What if you start this business and it is successful? What if you ask that girl out and she does say yes? What if you make a decision to go and be all that you can be and you become that person? Now what? You have to start changing the mindset that's up here in your head. You got to start altering the perspective, because when you do that, that's the foundation of unlocking everything else that's meant to flow through you, okay? That is the foundation of everything. So with all that being said, I know a lot of it, some of you guys may be jumping in here on episode 2 and maybe you haven't heard episode 1 yet, but I want you guys to go back and listen to episode 1, primarily because I talk about a contest that we're doing. It's the Founding Family Contest. I want you guys to be able to be a part of that and participate if you want to. I'll also drop some of the details and information inside the show notes of this episode. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about it at the end of this episode as well, so you can just kind of get a quick gist before you go over and check the show notes out. But I don't want to spend all the time sharing about my background and why the podcast and everything was created, because I want to get right into the content and right into the information that I want to share with you guys. Okay. But here's what I will do. I will give you a little bit of the context, because I want you to really understand where I came from. Because I know I gave kind of like this high level overview of where I came from in my background, but I didn't kind of share some of the deep, intricate parts of the story that was really important in helping me develop my Upshot despite everything that was going on. Okay. Because I remember being a kid, and I told you guys in the very first episode that my dad left when I was about 7 or 8 years old, but that was shortly after about that I actually saw him abuse my mom. So it was like one of the times when I saw my dad go through just a really bad lull. He was abusing drugs. He was abusing alcohol. He was gambling all his money away. And I remember one time being a kid, I woke up in the middle of the night because I just heard them screaming at each other. And when I went into my mom and dad's room, I saw my dad put his hands on my mom. And I think I was only had to be somewhere between 6, 7, maybe 8 years old. And I remember just crying. I went to my room and I cried because I didn't really know what to do, right? And I felt so sad about myself. Like, why did I not step in? Why did I do something different? Why didn't I do anything to help my mom in that situation? And it was a tough moment for me in general. However, I remember thinking to myself that was a determining moment to make me realize, like, bro, I will never put my hands on a woman. I'll never be that guy that's going to create that type of fear and hostility inside of my own household. So I want to give you that a little bit, because we're going to talk a little bit more about that in this episode. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys is the time that it was 2 years of my life. It was a stretch where I basically had to wash. We didn't have any running hot water in our house, plain and simple. So it was for 2 years where I had to wash myself by my mom basically getting she had these huge medical basins, and she would take these large pots of boiled water and pour a little bit into this basin, and then she would mix some of the cold water inside of it as well. And then she would give me that and a cup and send me upstairs, and she called them cup towels. That was what I used to wash myself with. I would take a cup and I would rinse myself off, and I would use a wash rag and soap, and I would wash myself and then basically rinse off with the cup again. And that was the way I washed myself. And I remember back then thinking, like, man, how was I born into this? Like, why is this the cards that I was dealt, right? And I remember being so frustrated and sad, right? And just feeling like, man, why is this my life? When I knew it was different people that was around me that were not living as bad as I was. And I'm not saying that because I want you guys to take pity on me or anything else. I don't want any sympathy. I'm sharing it as context because I want you to realize it doesn't matter where you start. You can always finish somewhere else as long as you choose to. right? But I tell people all the time is that if you were born broke, it's not your fault. But if you die broke, it is your fault. Okay. So you need to start making some different decisions to do that and to set yourself up in a better way. So as I look down into some notes, because I'm gonna just kind of go through some of the things that's inside of the book itself, we're going to talk about, like I said, the upshot. And your upshot is all about creating a vision for your life. You have to create a vision for your life because, a man without vision shall perish, right? I don't know if a lot of you guys are faith people. I'm a huge faith guy. Faith is very big to me. And I know that for a fact. That's the truth that's inside of the great book, right? A man without vision shall perish. So you need to start figuring out what that vision is for your life. What are you excited about? And I don't want you to think about, man, like, oh, what do I want to be? I hate that question. You're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You guys probably heard that question a lot when you was a kid, just as much as I did. And I hate it because it pigeonholes you into just one way of thinking. Like most of us, we say like, oh, like for me, I wanted to be an NFL. So my entire mindset and my entire thought process was like, what do I need to do to get into the NFL, right? I didn't really know why I wanted to be in the NFL. I just said I wanted to be in the NFL, right? So same thing. It was like, oh, I want to be, I don't know, engineer. I want to be an accountant. I want to be whatever. And it basically, it narrows your mind into one area and then forces you to basically play out in that one area for the length of time. And I don't want you guys to do that. Here's a question that I'd rather you answer. What do you want your life to look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Paint a picture for me. Be as vivid as you can. What kind of house do you live in? What kind of car do you drive? What does your day look like? What is your time? How is your time spent? Do you spend more time with family? Do you spend more time at your job? What does your life look like? Because once you figure out that part of your vision, your upshot, now you can start backwards integrating what you need, like the vehicle you need, not the actual physical vehicle, but the vehicle in which, when I say your means of making money, your vehicle, right, is your means of making money. You get to choose the right one that's going to support the lifestyle that you just described, okay? So for me, what I realize now, the reason why I wanted to go to the NFL is because it provided so much more income and lifestyle that I can give back to others. One of my biggest goals in life is being able to pay my mom $30,000 a year. The NFL would have did that for me. I could have been like, hey, Ma, you wash the dish, here's 30 grand, whatever, I love you, right? But now that the NFL was not in my cards, I had to figure out what vehicle, right, what opportunity was I going to pursue in order to create the lifestyle that allowed me to still pay my mom $30,000 a year. I hope that's making sense to you guys, because that's huge. You got to start figuring out what you want your life to look like and stop asking yourself, what do you want to do or what do you want to be? Because that will change. If you're, for example, if you're thinking to yourself like, man, I want to be able to create apps, right? Like maybe you're a web designer or some type of coder, right? However, you want your lifestyle to be, I wake up maybe 11, 12 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon, and I basically just live my life. I work for 2 or 3 hours, maybe doing some calls or something like that. And then the rest of my time, I just get to spend it doing what I feel like doing. Well, being a coder typically does not equate to that lifestyle that you just described. So therefore, there's a conflict there. So that's the reason why I want you to answer the question of what you want your life to look like. Because now, once you do that, and you figure out what you want your schedule to be and everything else, you can start doing searches that will allow you to identify opportunities that give you that lifestyle. I don't want you guys to start aimlessly putting your eggs in a basket that you don't even know the destination is going to make you end up in, okay? So that's the very first thing, creating the vision, okay? Once you create the vision, I want you guys to learn how to keep it in front of you. Keep the vision in front of you. You have to be reminded of what you're working towards, okay? So for me, that example is I put pictures of the things that I'm chasing or the people that I'm fighting for on my dashboard, okay? Sounds weird, but in my car, I actually can go in and sit inside of my car and I see all the people that I'm fighting for. Another huge thing that I do is a vision board. Me and my wife have created a vision board. It actually sits right across, like as soon as our heads come up off the pillow, We can see the vision board right above our dresser, and it has all our dreams, the goals, and things that we want to accomplish within the next 5, 10, 15 years. So that is, it's a constant reminder. We see it every night before we go to sleep, and we see it every morning when we wake up in the morning. We have to keep that vision in front of you. So that's what I would recommend you do. Either figure out how to do a vision board, figure out how to put these different things inside of your car and your dashboard. Just figure out something that's going to allow you to keep that vision in front of you, right? I know some people, they do it as a text message inside of their phone, right? Or they do it as like a screensaver inside of their phone as well. But some people do it as like an alarm, right? And I did that for a while, where it was like basically a dime or bust, right? So like my alarm would go off at 5 o'clock in the night. Actually, my friend taught me about this. So we talked about having your alarm go off at 5 p.m. and it says dime or bust. And it basically gave him the mentality of like, okay, I've gave my time to this employer for the last 8 hours. Now I can go out and give myself time in my business and what I'm pursuing for the next 5, 6, 10, or whatever it is, right? Because if I gave somebody else that time of mine and I was building their dream, I should be able to give that same time to myself and my own family and my own legacy. So that way I can get rid of that first thing and start my own thing full time. Okay. So you got to figure out how to keep that thing in front of you, because it's just so important. Sometimes we fell short of our dreams and goals because we just forget what they are, because of all the life, all the stuff that starts to come in, right? Like all the obstacles that start to come in and some of the distractions that start to come in. And you're like, man, this thing looked really good at one point in time, but then every single day there's a new obstacle that's thrown your way. And you're like, oh, okay, that's still right there. However, my attention is over here. And then you never turn back to look at that obstacle that you had. And that's where the issue is. That's where a lot of people fall short, is because they forget what their dream was in the first place. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to remind yourself of what you're working towards every single day. Remind yourself of it and make it a vivid visual image, because what's now in your mind, you're going to continuously figure out what the solutions are that's going to get you to where you want to go. Okay. So that's keeping the vision in front of you. It's huge. It's something that you definitely want to have inside of there. The next step along the way is speaking it. You have to speak what you want. What I learned all the time, or what I've learned over the last 5 years, is that you can't fight bad thoughts with good thoughts. You can only fight bad thoughts with good words. So obviously you're going to get a whole lot of self-doubt in yourself once you start to create these big dreams, these big goals, how you want your life to look like. And to you, it may seem like it's impossible right now. To you, it may seem like, oh my gosh, like this dude wants me to have all these different things inside of this vision and this dream board of mine. However, I don't even know the first step that I'm going to have to take in order to get there. I get it. I've been there. I've been in your shoes when I didn't quite believe 100% in everything that I was pursuing. However, I started to speak it. I started to get my words right. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I started to realize that if I wanted something in life, I was going to speak it every single day like I had it. I call it affirmation cards. You can call it confession cards, whatever you want to call it. It's basically writing down a series of statements as if it's already been completed. So say in the next 5, 10, 15 years, one of your goals is to break the $1 million club, right? The 7-figure club. Then every single day, you know what I'm speaking? I'm speaking that, man, I'm so thankful and I'm so blessed that that I have broken the 7-figure club. I'm thankful that I make $7 million a year, and I speak it as if it's already done, because that's the power of the tongue. As long as you start speaking it as if it's done, your mind has no reason but to find out how to make that happen. Your brain does not like to be wrong. So therefore, if you start speaking what you want in life, then you're going to start to get that. So start speaking those goals, those things that you want to have accomplished in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Start speaking it out loud so that it becomes synced into your subconscious mind. And then you can start to create the fruit that you want to see inside of your life, right? That tree that we talked about building in the very beginning. So that's huge, and starting to create that, okay? Now, the next part is something very, very important to me. You have to start focusing on your windshield and not the rear view mirror. I'm gonna say that one more time. Focus on the windshield and not the rear view mirror. When you guys sit inside of your car, your vehicle, you're driving to work, you're driving to run errands, whatever it may be, right? What are you looking through the entire time? Majority of the time, it's your windshield, right? Because if you drove your car while looking through the rear view mirror 100% of the time, or even more than 5 to 10% of the time, you're going to cause an accident. You're going to crash. You're going to crash and burn, period, right? Why am I saying all this? Because the same way you operate a vehicle is the same way you operate your life. Your windshield is probably 6 times the size of your rear view mirror, because your attention should always be in front of you. Majority of the time, you're looking out in front. You're looking at this vast image that's out in front of you. The rear view mirror is so small because you spend a very minute amount of time looking behind you. That's how your life needs to be. Spend your time looking at what's out in front of you. Your past does not determine your future. So some of you guys are maybe listening to this right now, guys or girls, and maybe you're thinking to yourself like, Eddie, yeah, all this sounds great, but I've never been good at developing goals. Or Eddie, you don't understand, man. Like, I just don't have the know-how, or I don't have this talent, or I don't have the skills because my family has come from this bad background, whatever else. I don't care. That's rough, but I don't care. I don't care about where you've been. I care about where you're going. Stop putting your eyes inside of the rear view mirror and look through that freaking windshield, man. Start looking through the windshield and figuring out, like, this is where I'm heading. So where I've been does not have to dictate where I'm heading, okay? That is the huge part that I want you guys to remember in this entire thought process inside of this episode, because I want you guys to shed that self-limiting belief that's inside of your head of thinking of, man, I'm just stuck where I am because I've never accomplished more. I don't want you to think like, man, I'm stuck inside of this environment, or I'm stuck inside the hood because I've never accomplished or seen anything different. You can go out and pursue whatever you want in life. You just have to start focus on what's out in front. Stop looking behind you, okay? Nothing good is typically in your past, especially if you're using it as a crutch to move forward. So with all that being said, here's something else I want to bring to you guys' attention, because it's important to know, because it's something that I had to struggle with, and it's something that I had to realize for myself before I could start breaking my own self-limiting beliefs and pursuing a life that I was really passionate about living, okay? The number one thing is, I guess, answer this question. Are you running towards something, or are you running away from something? You have to figure out what motivates you. For me, I would say the first 22 years of my life, I was running away from something. I knew exactly what I did not want in life. I looked at the examples that was around me as far as the males. I looked at some of the families that was around me as well. And I did not want anything that those examples showed me. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I didn't want to have an abusive household. I didn't want to have all this just violence and things that was surrounding me and surrounding the family that I was going to have in the future. I didn't want any of those things. So I started to make decisions opposite of everybody else that was in my examples, my sphere of people, right? That was what I started to do. And I was running from something, man. Like, I was flat. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew exactly what I didn't want. And therefore I just ran in the other direction. Had no idea of where the heck I was going to end up. Right. And I tell people all the time that sustained me for the first 22 years of my life. However, once I got to about the age of 22, I was introduced to a mentor of mine who made me think about what I was running to. That whole thought process of the upshot that we've already been describing throughout this entire episode. What are you running to? Right? Because for me, I didn't have an idea of what that looked like at first. It was all materialistic things. I just knew the car that I wanted to drive. I knew, the size house that I wanted to live in and things like that. However, I didn't know the legacy. I didn't know the character. I didn't know the deep underlying passions that I had yet at 22 years old. I had no idea about it, right? So what I want you to do is try to figure out right now where you're at in life. Are you running from something, and are you running towards something? If you're running from something, that's okay. I'm telling you right now, that's okay, because you have a clear idea of what you don't want, and that's going to serve you well until you figure out what you do want. Okay, that's going to serve you well until you figure out what you do want. However, you're going to want to at some point switch that mindset. At some point, you're going to have to go from, man, I'm running away from something, to, man, I'm running towards something. Because running away from something will only get you so far. It'll get you out and away from what you're running from. However, it puts you usually in the middle of nowhere because you don't exactly know where you're going to end up. So when you get a clear vision, that upshot of where you're headed and where you actually want to be, now you're starting to develop that backbone, that purpose of what you're fighting for, right? And you start to have that resilience, that perseverance, so that you can actually achieve the goals that you set out for in the very beginning. So that's why it's important to make that switch from I'm running away from something to I'm running to something. Okay? So that's huge. That's something that I definitely want you guys to know. Now, this section right here, this is important. This is very, very important, because without this part, I don't think you have anything at all, because this part builds off of what we were just talking about. However, if it's not a part of your thinking, if you don't establish this, if you don't figure out this sooner rather than later, then you're going to burn out, and most likely you're going to quit whatever it is that you just said you want to accomplish. And that thing is a why. You have to back up your vision, your goals, your upshot with a why. Why are you doing what you're doing? John Maxwell said that purpose puts a steel rod in the backbone of discipline. In order to accomplish that goal, to accomplish the things that you just told me that you want to accomplish, you're going to have to develop a disciplined habit of pursuing that goal. So you have to figure out what your purpose is. One of my favorite books to help you determine this is actually Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Love that book, because it helps you dive deep into why it is that you want what you want, right? Gets way below the surface level of what you're saying. Like some of you may have been, when you first thought about that statement or that question, what do you want your life to look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Some of you guys may have been thinking to yourself like, man, I want that house. Or heck, man, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work for somebody else. But I'm going to ask you why. Why don't you want to work with somebody else? Oh, I don't want the authority over top of me. Why? Because I feel like I can do it better than them. Why? Because I feel like, I don't know, I got a better idea. I got a better vision. I got a better standard. Why? Keep asking yourself why. Ask yourself the deep rooting reasons of why you do what you do, right? For me, number one for me is legacy. We talked about legacy already in the previous episode, but legacy is important for me. I want a new ceiling that my kids can stand on to go and pursue their dreams, their goals from. The ceiling that was left for me was very, very low. And that's not a shot at my family. It's not a shot at my parents or anything like that. But the ceiling was low. I don't want my ceiling for my kids to be the same height that mine was. I need to raise them up higher so that they can go and pursue things that they want to accomplish and do it much faster than what I ever did. I wouldn't be surprised if my sons and daughters were millionaires by the time they were 20 years old, because of what I'm going to be able to teach them now, right? Early on in their life. Like if I knew what I know now when I was 14 and 15 years old, I'd have, hands down, I've been a millionaire by now. Period. Because I know how important it is to fill your mind with the right things. And I know some of the different options and opportunities that are available to me that I did not know was available to me back then. So it's huge. You got to start figuring out what your your why is, your purpose, the reason why you get up in the morning, what makes you tick. Mine is my family. I know if I wake up in the morning and I see my son's face and I see my wife's face and I see that they have to eat, I go out and I got to perform. I got to go do what I need to do to make sure that these people are well taken care of. And not just for today or next week or next month or next year, but for generations. I want to create generational wealth. I don't just want my kids to be taken care of. I want my grandkids to be taken care of and my grandkids' grandkids to be taken care of because the decisions that I make today, that is my passion. That is what I love to do. That is what ticks me every single morning. And that's why I get up and do what I do without any remorse and any complaints because I know what I'm fighting for. The purpose is deeply rooted within inside of me. And you guys got to figure out what that is for you. You got to figure out why you do what you do. Because once you figure that out, nobody else can take that away from you. No matter how many times people tell you that you can't do something, you're going to automatically prove them wrong because you know why you're fighting for what you're fighting for. And it's huge for you to figure that part out. Okay? Huge for you to figure that part out. So, with that being said, here's the last and final step, the last point that I want to bring up inside of this chapter. And we're going to wrap this episode up because it's getting a little long anyway. Once you have those things in hand, right? Like once you figure out what you want your life to look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years, once you figure out how to keep it in front of you, once you figure out to start looking through your windshield and stop staring into your rearview mirror, and once you back that thing up with a why and you have a deeper reasoning, a purpose for why you want to accomplish that, go take immediate, massive action. Go take action to go create whatever it is that you just said that you want to create. The reason behind it is because when you take action, it starts to solidify in your mind that it's actually going to happen. You can think about these things all day long. You can have these dreams, these goals, but if it just stays up here and you never write it down and actually go apply it, then nothing's ever going to happen. You're going to wake up and do the exact same thing you've been doing, expecting different results. And guess what? That's the definition of insanity. I don't want you to grow up to be insane, okay? I want you to develop the life that you want to live. So go take action. The action can be as simple as, you know what? I'm going to go buy a book and learn this thought process that Eddie's talking about. It can be as simple as I'm going to call somebody and tell them of my dream, my goal, my desire. That once you say it out loud, it kind of solidifies it that you have to go do something about it, right? So those are two actions that you can take. Another thing that you can do is just figuring out maybe a plan, right? Sit down and actually write out a plan, like backwards, reverse engineer it. Like, okay, say if I want to make $100,000 this year, right? Well, if you have a product or if you have some type of service or something that you can sell, what is the base unit price cost, right? I want to make $100,000. Okay, well, my base price of this product that I sell is $1,000. Okay, how much profit are you making on that? Let's say it's $900 in profit that you're making selling a digital product. Okay, so that's $900 that you're going to create for every single sale and transaction that you do. Okay, so now you divide 900 into 100,000. I don't know what that number is, but guess what? I got a calculator right here. So let's figure out what that number is. You got $100,000, right? Divide that by 900, like we talked about. Then that means you have to do 101. I don't know if you guys can see that. For those of you guys that are listening, it's 101 and one repeating. That's how many sales you have to create in order to make $100,000, right? Now, if you divide that number by 12, because it's 12 months in a year, that means you have to sell 9.25 of those products every single month in order to make $100,000 a year off of what we just talked about in that example. Now you just got to figure out how to sell 9 products a month or 1.5 products a week, right? Or 2, my bad. Yeah, 2.5 products a week because it's 4 weeks in a month. So that's the simplicity of breaking something down. Once you start to figure that part out, you have to take action on it, right? Because now you got a plan. Now you know what's there. Now you know what you want to pursue. But until you figure out how you're going to do it, then it's all just a pipe dream. It's the pipe dream that teacher told me that it was way back when. Don't accept that. Go take action on it. And remember this, you are more than a conqueror. More than a conqueror. More than a conqueror. I say that 3 times, but it's important that you hear the more part. A conqueror obviously a conqueror is huge in itself, but if the good book says that you're more than a conqueror, then that means the battle ends with you winning. So stop being afraid to go take chances and fail or dreaming too big. There's no such thing as dreaming too big. It takes the same amount of energy to dream small that it does to dream big. So why waste that energy dreaming small when you can have so much more in life? You're more than a conqueror. So everything that you have or everything that you want, it's all available to you. You just have to go take action towards it, okay? Faith without works is dead. You have to work for it. It's not just going to fall into your lap. It's not going to hit you in the head while you're walking down the street. It's going to take work. Take action towards the dreams and goals that you have. That's how you're going to get to where you want to go, okay? Now, with all that being said, that's chapter 1. That's the upshot in all its simplicity, as simple as I can make it. And I'm excited for you guys to get this info because I want you guys to be able to, again, step out of your shells. I want you to step out of this darkness that you think that you can't achieve what you need to achieve. I want you to start stepping into your greatness. And it starts by first having a vision for your life and what you're fighting for and what you're working towards. So I want you guys to definitely start figuring that part out. Now, I said really quick in the beginning of this episode that I was going to share a little bit more about the contest because the Founding Family Contest, it's a lot of fun, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And just to give you guys a little bit more of the details, for those of you who don't know, the contest is actually running from July 24th to August 24th. And the winner will be announced on the episode that releases on August 28th. But here are the 3 things that you need to do in order to be entered into that contest, okay? Here's the 3 things. You have to first join the email list by going to eddiethomason.com/podcast. And I'm going to put that inside the show notes so you can have it. But it's EDDIETHOMASON.com/podcast. That's going to take you to the page to actually sign up for the email list. Once you sign up for the email list, you have to take a screenshot of the welcoming email that our team sends you, okay? Take a screenshot of it. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is share that screenshot on the social media that you're most comfortable with, okay? So that could be Facebook, that could be Instagram, that could be LinkedIn. We're across all of them, okay? But here's the thing. If you're going to share on more than one platform, you actually get your name entered more than once. So if you enter on Facebook, but then you also enter on Instagram, but then you also enter on LinkedIn, then you're going to be entered into the thing 3 times, right? You're going to be entered into the generator 3 times. If you only enter in one of those podcasts or one of those, then you're only going to be entered on one. If you're only sharing on one social media, okay? Now, once you share it, you have to tag Curse Breaker Podcast inside your post, as well as me, Eddie Thomason, which on majority of the handles, I'll put the different ones inside the show notes, but most of the handles for my social medias are Eddie Thomason _ at Eddie Thomason _, okay? That way you can get yourself entered into the contest, and the winners the winner is going to get a signed copy of Unlock Yourself, my best-selling book, Unlock Yourself, How to Earn the Success You Were Born to Create, as well as some Curse Breaker swag, which I'm excited to give. So you guys, I'm all set for this episode. I'm so excited to get into episode 3. And do me a favor and share this with somebody that you know that needs to hear this message and needs to start developing a vision for their life, okay? So make sure you listen to the Curse Breaker Podcast or any of your favorite outlets, including Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and be sure to visit the Black Gamut ENT website, okay? So blackgamutent.com, and get the latest news on all of our podcasts, the giveaways and the contest, because I'm not the only one that's actually running a contest. I want you guys to be able to take advantage of some of those as well. So with that, I'm out. See you guys in the next episode.